Happy Friday. What's going on, Coop? How you doing, sir?
What up, fam? How you?
I'm good, man. We're going on a little bit early because we want to enjoy the festivities of the Braves winning the World Series. So, go Braves. We got our
Go Brave.
A-Town hats on right now. Ludacris and Big Boy performing at the,
Hey,
out there at Truist Stadium, man. Shout out to the Braves. I heard it's going to be like a million people out there, man. Like, literally. They estimate a million people to be out there.
I mean, the city got like what, 8, 9 million in it now? Yeah.
That's real. And we probably got a lot of surrounding area people too, because the Braves are one of those teams that's kind of like the Dallas Cowboys, right? And the Pittsburgh Steelers, where we got fans all in the Southeast because of that whole TBS thing. And there's a lot of people who don't have baseball teams in the Southeast.
I was
And
about to say,
yeah,
Mike, what the Braves really have done a good job of is ingratiating themselves to the states that do not have baseball teams right outside of Georgia. So I'll speak to the fact that I was born in Charlotte, but I was mostly raised in Atlanta. But one of the best things about moving back to Charlotte for my junior high and high school and college years was that North Carolina is Braves country too, Mike.
yeah. You
Everybody
can
there is
like
a
so
Braves
that's
fan
where
in
the
North
million
Carolina,
number comes
in
from.
South Carolina, in Florida, in Alabama, in Arkansas. Yeah, like there are no
Yo,
professional baseball teams. So the Braves got the whole Southeast like on lock. So like when we win, it is like, yeah.
like Southeast wins. Shout out to everybody coming in the group in the room. Excuse me. People are coming in fast, man. DeCarlo, what up to you, man? You always the first one. He said, "What up, brothers?" Harry H says, "First in, can't wait to hear y'all break this down." Yeah, we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it, man. How many of y'all seen that Kanye West Drink Champs interview? First of all, and I want to know what y'all thinking about it, because me and Coop about to actually go in on it. I mean, I guess we can't waste no time, man. The people are already here and they want to hear what we got to say.
Where
I
you want to
know
start? So much to unpack. Like it's a whole
so
show worth
much
of
to
material. It's
unpack.
actually more than a show worth of material to unpack.
It
But you know,
is, man, and I love it. And the funny part is, we didn't know this was gonna happen until like yesterday. Kanye West, well, it wasn't announced by him. His team, he has different pages that announce things for him. But Drink Champs, they announced that morning that they were going to be broadcasting Kanye West's interview. What was it,
mhm.
10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? I think I saw it at 11. I stayed up to like 1, 2 a.m., man. I think I was texting you in the a.m., man, because I just couldn't go to sleep.
I woke up
Um,
to your text about
it was a lot,
it.
man. It was a whole lot. Kanye is brilliant. And any notion that this man is like mentally unstable and all that, I don't buy it. I think he's just very honest. He's one of the few people who has that level of freedom. And like you said, he's uncompromising. One of the things that stood out to me before I forget, and I know I didn't write this in my notes, is his affinity to Dame Dash. I love that. I
You want to
love
start right
that.
there? You want to start off with Dane? Can we start off with Dane?
I was gonna ask you what you thought of it overall, but yeah, we can start off with Dame and we can kind of backtrack from there. Let's start off with Dame. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, Dame is becoming one of those guys who really wasn't that beloved when he was active in his prime as a boss and as a CEO in the forefront as a mogul in the hip hop business. He was not beloved. But what the next generation has realized was that actually Dame was just ahead of the curve, and that's why a lot of what he was doing was coming off like he was an asshole. It's like Ye was saying, it's like, no, Dame just had a vision for how things were going to be and how they should be in terms of ownership and diversity for black entrepreneurs and CEOs. And so Dame is one of those guys who's like a legend. And like, like if this was a stock ticker, you know what I'm saying? Like Dame's stock would be like on some Tesla shit right now. Mike, it'd be like, oh, it was 650 about middle point this year. It's double that now.
You know, I think what
I
Dame suffers from is the fact that he can't rap. He doesn't have fans. And I think a lot of people pick sides based on fandom. When you
Yeah.
listen to Jay and you become a fan of his, subconsciously you're gonna take his side on anything. You know what I mean? And he has the voice too, and the fact that Jay can come out with an album, he can come out with a verse and tell his side like uncut, whatever, whatever, coded lyrically and all that. Dame has never been allotted that opportunity. And he's never been allotted the opportunity to have fans vote for him. So a lot of his side doesn't really get told, and fortunately for him, he stayed true to a man named Kanye West, who has broken through a lot of things, and like you said, is very uncompromising,
Yeah.
and they are very similar in personalities, and Kanye West is going to have his back, and now Dame has a voice.
Yeah, because one thing that I did really notice, and so let's give the overall take, and I like where you started. One of my big takeaways was that, okay, so having mental health issues is very similar to like being addicted to alcohol or a controlled substance, to a degree that once you are that way, you're kind of always that way. And what I saw was somebody who, if they do have any mental health issues, well, he's also 44 years old and he's learned how to handle them very well, because he came off masterful in this interview. And really, he didn't come off as somebody with mental health issues. He came off as somebody who, quite frankly, Mike, is a genius at a lot of things. And sometimes geniuses have, like, mental health issues or lapses in moments. Like, it does go hand in hand. And this was a moment where we got to see the genius side.
His genius moments were what we were just speaking about offline, is the fact that Kanye West is a head. Like, he's a hip hop head. He knows what he's talking about. Obviously, he's made great hip hop in his own right. But to hear him talk about, be asked about certain artists that we've never actually have heard him publicly articulate, his fandom for, like the Scarface Ice Cube thing really stood out for me too, and how he was able to break down Scarface's delivery at a certain point in Scarface's career, and how, and how Ice Cube delivers his rhymes. And I think it was incredibly honest when he said he's more influenced by Scarface, but he might listen to Ice Cube's music more. And it's interesting because I think he's a good mix, a good healthy mix of both of those guys. Introspectively, Scarface, and the I don't give a fuck of Ice Cube.
So, Mike, can I say something? And I'm not being funny, and you and I talked about this behind the scenes. A lot of his takes and my takes were very, very similar. I mean, and you know that better than anybody. And when he said the Scarface Ice Cube thing, I was like, damn. I was like, that's exactly how I feel, because I know exactly what he's talking about to a degree, and this is why.
Yeah. I mean, and to piggyback on that, Nas is the GOAT to him.
No.
Yeah.
No. I want to touch on the Scarface. Yeah, because we're going to break it all down. But the Scarface Ice Cube thing, Mike, I was literally thinking to myself last night that I don't listen to Scarface like the way that I used to, because mentally and life-wise, I'm not in that place.
Right.
And going back and listening to some of that face stuff reminds me of certain things and puts me in that place. That's the type of influence and hold the music has on you. I'm more likely to put on Ice Cube shit because it's easier for me to just ride to and get into, and not take me to a place. Face know how to take you to a place. So when he said that, it struck me, because I was literally thinking to myself, it's like, man, when is the last time I played one of Face's albums from beginning to end? Because it had been a minute, Mike.
Right. No, you got to go through it. I was playing, Mom Playing Tricks on Me. Obviously, Halloween just passed. And my fiance was like, that's a crazy song. I was like, yeah, he was going through it. And that's just a single. You know what I'm saying?
It's deeper than darker on his part. It's deeper and darker than My Mind Playing Tricks on Me. Like on the, yeah.
DeCarlo says, what y'all think about him saying Bone Crusher when Atlanta started taking over? We're going to get to that. I agree with him wholeheartedly.
We got that down. Yeah, we
got that down. But I'm going to let you know I agree. And I was there. I got the damn, I got the blank CD with the writing on it from Bone Crusher himself, like months and months before the song even surfaced. So yeah, we'll get to that. That's a.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But okay. You were talking about Scarface and Ice Cube and your take on.
No, he hit the nail on the head. It's like Scarface's influence is heavier on the craft of emceeing and his ability to kind of command you and take a hold of you, but you're probably more likely to ride the Ice Cube shit like you are. And so that's those moments of like, yo, this dude knows his shit. Like he's on some rap shit still. Like
Yeah.
forever. For him being big as he is, like he still know his rap stuff in and
Of
out.
course.
Because I was listening to him talk to N.O.R.E, and I felt like it was like you and me talking, except for you're a better orator than N.O.R.E, in my opinion.
I don't like the, I'm just going to go ahead and say this here, man. I don't like the fact that N.O.R.E be acting crazy, like he don't know anything. Like, you're going to sit here and tell us that you didn't know that Kanye West produced The Takeover. Everybody knows that.
And
you're an MC from New York City, from Queens, who was signed to Def Jam in the 2000s, and you're going to sit here and tell us that you didn't know Kanye West made Takeover?
Mike, he's been around Fab.
50, come on, man. Don't do that. I don't like that.
Mob D. Early, Mike. I'm talking early.
And I say that respectfully, N.O.R.E. You know what I'm saying? Drink Champs is an awesome... Drink Champs is an awesome concept, but that whole, I didn't know this and that, it's annoying. It really is.
Mike, N.O.R.E was around so much rap history before he even dropped his solo album that it's ridiculous.
Yeah, man. I guess he never heard, the bounce on the Blueprint 2, where, Kanye was like, you did Takeover. Do you got beef with Nas? Or did Takeover the game, brought back the soul? It was even a thing when Nas was on We Major. It's like, oh, he produced Takeover, him and Nas doing the record together? Whatever. But Terminator 2 says, I want to get to something that he said. He said, Mike D and Coop, I don't want to hear y'all shitting on Common again. Nigga said Common is 1,000 times better than Talib. I think that, and I do want to talk about it.
Where we're going? Because he said other stuff about Common too, and I think the stuff we've been saying about Common.
I think that 1,000 times better than Talib was more about Talib than him giving Common props.
First of all,
you know what? A lot of those things.
Are we going there right now? Can we touch that point right now? Let's go ahead and do the Common thing.
Let's go ahead and do the Common thing. Okay. I guess we could do the Common, Big Sean, John Legend, and who else falls on it? And Talib thing, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I think Common, he gets a certain level of respect from Kanye because he already had a career going before Kanye, and he was the guy in Chicago. No-I.D is Kanye's mentor. So there's a level of respect already for Common in his career. Now, granted, where Common is now, that's because of Kanye West. And I don't care what anybody says. That's because of Kanye West. The Common that we know now, that's acting in films and all that stuff, from B on, that's because of Kanye West. But I still think there's a level of respect there in the fact that he was already proven and, a hip-hop legend before he even started working with Ye. Now, as far as Big Sean and John Legend, Kanye West made those guys. Straight up. No way around that. He made those guys.
So, first of all, I mean...
and Talib...
More than any other MC, probably, Common influenced Kanye because he, for most people, and even now, even with Ye being here, Chicago's best MC. Is that fair assertion?
I think Kanye West is Chicago's best MC, but okay.
Some people still say Common, but what I'm saying is that he's so highly regarded that even at this point with Ye being who he is, and even what he's contributed to Common's catalog, which is some of his best stuff, and definitely his best album in my opinion, Common is still highly regarded on that type of MC level locally and nationally.
And Common, and I will, not to interrupt you, but I will give Common this credit because I know I didn't say this in what I just spit out, but Common created a lane for Kanye West in that city. Because if you think about Twisters, the Do or Dies, the Crucial Conflicts, and even the Brat that were coming out of Chicago, there wasn't really a backpack lane in Chicago like that. So I think the fact that Common even created that lane for Kanye to be able to walk through and represent Chicago in that way he respects, period. And you have to.
Right. And so Common's not 1,000 times better than Kweli. But, Mike, I have to, once again, this is what I was saying. It's like he was saying stuff, and it's like, well, yeah, that's kind of how I feel, too. It's like when he was saying he was 1,000 times better, it's like, here's what he was saying. And to go to what Terminator's saying, let me clarify how I feel about Common as MC. I feel like Common is an all-time great MC, but I would put him at the bottom tier of the A-list MCs. Talib Talib Kweli is somewhere on the B list, and so he's not 1,000 times better, but he is in a different stratosphere as an MC in my estimation as well. So yeah, he's kind of hitting the mark. He just kind of overstated it.
What surprised me about the Talib, and I think he was being honest, because granted, I think this whole interview, for the most part, Kanye West was being honest, whether you agree with him or not. It's his opinions. But what surprised me was him dragging Talib in the way he did, because he was talking about how tight him and Mos Def were, or just speaking about how conversations him and Mos Def have had. Same thing with Dave, and you kind of loop all those things together. And obviously, you know, me and you could be friends and have a mutual friend that I don't fuck with or whatever. That happens. But when he said that he never liked the way that Talib rapped, that was interesting to me.
Mike.
That was interesting. I believe I believe he was telling the truth. Do you believe he was telling the truth, or just saying some shit because he don't like Talib now?
Okay, did you see what Talib posted on Twitter?
I missed that. What'd he say?
Okay, so Talib went and quoted some of the things that Kanye had said about Talib, like in the positive light. Like he put a quote about how, you know, I used to go to Mos Def and Talib crib. They was the only ones that would let me in. Talib is this. And then he had like a little videos of everybody saying like how they would want to be Talib as an MC. And so there was a couple things about that. First of all, that obviously struck a nerve with Talib.
But he never said that, you know, he never pulled out anything saying that he thought Talib was a dope MC like that, though. You can still not like the way somebody raps and still be grateful. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna try to pull it up, Mike. That's why I was telling you.
No, that's what I'm looking up right now. You go ahead. Yeah,
it was in our group chat. The group I just added it to, the owner of the chat, Kendra, and he had reposted it. That's why I just seen it. I just seen it before we went online, and I was like,
it's got to be on Instagram. I forgot Talib is banned from Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, okay, must be Instagram.
Yeah, I forgot to ban Talib from Twitter.
No, I'm about to pull it up.
Yeah, go ahead and pull it up.
But go ahead, keep going while I find it and pull it up, because it's in here.
And, you know, LP says, I never liked Talib's flow either. And that's interesting because when he said that, I wasn't like, yo, Kanye, you tripping. Like, if he would have said that about Mos Def, I'd have been like, you tripping. I could understand rhythmically, especially how he was breaking down what was going on with Scarface's flow and how Jay does things, how Cube does things. I could rhythmically understand why he probably was always frustrated with Talib's flow. Because I've never been a huge fan of Talib's flow either. It's a little bit off kilter. We were talking about voices last episode. Talib doesn't have a great rap voice.
Here it goes. Kweli and Mos Def took me in when nobody else would. They were like, we like you, Kanye West. Kweli taught me the most about being an artist, more than anybody, Kanye West. There was something about this MAGA hat when I put it on that made me feel like Superman, Kanye West. By the way, I also wear fedoras too. And yeah,
what does that mean? Why did he even pull that? See, that's probably why he went in on Talib too. Like, what does the MAGA hat have to do with anything?
So let's unpack a couple things.
Okay, like, go ahead.
You can't win this fight on any level, so the response is going to come off as petty. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it comes off like he got stung by it. And that's why I said, well, no, when he said it was 1,000 times better, if there was anything, this was probably if this wasn't the best interview that I've seen a hip hop artist ever have, it's up there. It's easy top 5. I was trying to think of some of Tupac's and Ice Cube's earlier interviews or comparable.
It reminds you of a Tupac interview, actually.
Yeah. Like honesty and the candidness. If there was any exaggeration, it was this point. But Talib has to think more of himself to know that 1,000 times better was an exaggeration, even though I don't think him and Common are in the same weight class. And I think that's where it kind of struck a nerve.
Right.
It's because maybe Talib kind of knows that too.
Well, see, the thing is, Talib has been hearing from, because Talib is out there, and that's why he's banned on Twitter. He goes back and forth with people on Twitter, goes back and forth with people on social media in general. And many of the people that he's gone back and forth with have used the fact that, we only listen to Black Star for Mos Def anyway. So he's been hearing things in that range anyway from people that he's gone back and forth with. So obviously, like you said, that strikes a nerve. And, he's put in way more work than Mos Def, so...
Mike, of that camp and catalog of MCs that you would say make that genre of hip hop, a Black Thought, a Common, a Mos Def, Outkast, like those guys. Like he is the least talented MC of those top notch guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, and it's always been that way.
Why though? Because lyrically, this is one thing we can't say about Talib. Lyrically, he's there, and when I just said that, I thought about Chain Heavy. You know, the song that got left off of one of the great songs that got left off of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Yep.
I mean, Talib's flow was all over the place. The lyrics were there, but Kanye's verse was, you know, what color was the man who bared the cross? No matter how many lashes, you couldn't beat it off. I mean, he was just the better rapper on there, so I think a lot of that is voice and flow.
I was about to say, Mike, he doesn't have the best voice and he doesn't have the best flow. Those things matter, especially when you're next to guys like, I don't know, Black Thought, Most Def.
So, all right, what's the biggest difference? What is the biggest difference between Common and Talib as an MC, right? What's the big, in your opinion?
Oh, Mike, I mean, the biggest difference, the ability to write a full dope-ass song, because Common has herds of them and Talib has a lot of them.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna go there.
What are we gonna judge it by is the music. Go listen to Common songs. Go listen to Talib songs. That's the gap. Like Talib doesn't have anything. Like his best album would probably be Common's fourth best album.
I think that High Tech's made some of Talib's best songs. I think The Blast is there, obviously, but I think it's fair to say that Kanye may have arguably made his best song and biggest hit. That's why it's very hard for him to even go back and forth with Kanye on this, because, like, dude, I gave you Just to Get By. Get By is huge. Like, you can't really even say anything.
No, I mean, Get By and The Blast are his biggest, like, records, aren't they, Mike?
They are.
So, yeah, so, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
on the street level, Gorilla Monsoon, Kanye did that, too.
I mean, I think The Blast is a better record, but Get By is his biggest record, and that is produced by Kanye.
I think Get By put him somewhere else, and technically, The Blast is a Reflection Eternal record. You know what I'm saying? Like, but if we want to talk about actual solo Talib stuff, it's undoubtedly, you know, Get By, and on the street level, it's Gorilla Monsoon. Kanye did that too.
So that's what I'm saying. So it's like, now go pull up Common's catalog right quick, and you'll understand exactly what Ye's talking about. It's just he's not 1,000 times better, but they in a different class, man.
I think Kanye's listening to this as a producer, honestly. Obviously, him and, you know, he doesn't really rock with what Talib is saying politically, and we're going to get there too. But
any level you want to listen to it on?
What's up?
He's got them. Whether it's the albums, voice,
flow,
consistency. Consistency. Yeah, he's got them on every level. And so Ye was kind of saying that he just kind of pushed it a little further because of the issues of things that Talib has said about Ye since he wore the MAGA hat.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, and I think Kanye's biggest thing here, when you talk about Big Sean, Common, and especially John Legend, who was getting it throughout the interview. And I've talked to you about these things maybe offline or even on the show. It's like one of those things, man, like, dude, I'm not gonna stunt any of my peers or friends or people I call friends and have had personal conversations with. I'm not gonna stunt any of their dreams. If you want to run for president, me personally, I'm voting for you. You my nigga. You know what I mean? I don't know Joe Biden. I don't. Whatever. Point blank, period. That's one thing. But if for whatever reason I feel like, you know, and I wouldn't do this, that, you know, maybe Coop's not meant for this, whatever, this other person is, I would never go out there publicly, you know what I'm saying, telling people not to support you. I wouldn't do that.
Right.
And the fact that people like Big Sean and John Legend, who he made, did that, so that's unforgivable. And Talib does that on certain levels too. So I think that's why he got it. Go ahead.
Mike,
I'm sorry.
So let's say somebody in the hip hop sphere would offer me something different, but it would not conflict with according to hip hop. And as soon as I would get to that level and move over to that entity, I would immediately start like telling people like, yo, you really shouldn't fuck with according to hip hop like that, you know?
Right.
Like, that's essentially what they're doing. And so I want people to understand that Ye is actually doing what we often don't do with other men of power and position when they do stuff like this. Now, for the most part, I believe some things should be handled behind the scenes, Mike. But when it's this blatant, and
they didn't handle it behind the scenes.
Hold on, and this disrespectful. I want you to understand. Yeah. Like, I mean, and he called it like, and Mike, you and I, somebody called into, not called in, somebody, you know, in one of the comments one time, one of the shows asked us what we thought about Common. Mike, we was both over here with the Rock Nation brunch post like,
Yeah.
Because we feel the way Jay feel about it. Like, man, these dudes over here jumping through hoops and rings for these, like, for...
And you know what? This is my problem with Common. I'm going to just be 100, man. Like, I didn't like the fact that you were out here jumping up and down at these Biden rallies and stuff while your man is on the ballot. While the person who put you in position to be right here, to the fact that they're giving you this bag to be jumping up and down at this rally, is on the ballot. And then on top of that, the biggest part is when people do have public gripes about the current administration, you're silent. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that. That's whack.
Mike, before Common made B to the masses, he was that cool rapper that made the light.
Yeah.
Masses.
I don't even think a lot of them even recognize him from the light. I think I said this in our review of his album. I was dating a girl at the time. She was a year older than me. She thought B was Common's first album. So I'm just saying, like, heads knew who Common was like that, but on a mainstream level, like, my mom knows who Common is now. That's because of Kanye. You know what I'm saying? Like, straight up.
Common is now too. Ye got everything to do with that.
Everything. And the fact that these guys, for whatever reason, and obviously somebody's pulling their strings, will publicly go against him, that's whack. I don't care how you slice it. And I don't really like Big Sean's response either, where he talking about Kanye owes him $6 million, and he talking about well, I seen you the other day, you didn't say any of that. You know what you've done. You don't have to say anything.
Now, hold on. Now, Mike, if this was some street shit, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I know these dudes is foul, because it's like, oh, well, if, like, y'all some real industry ass, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because you be getting your ass handled out here about that, right? That type of disloyalty, that type of blatant disloyalty, like publicly, and then saying the man owe you money. Oh no, that's whack. You fucked up out here.
Brian Blinker says, so y'all wanted Kanye as president? That's not what I'm saying.
That's not what we're saying. We're talking about supporting somebody the way that they supported you.
You know, I got a good friend who ran for city council the other day. Childhood friend, Ty Gray. Shout out to you, man. He didn't win, but of course I support it. That's my, I know him personally. Right. So what am I going to do? Somebody I know personally, not support them and go support somebody that just reached out to me because they think that I could get them votes? That's whack. I'm sorry. It is. No matter how you slice it.
Right. So let's jump to something right quick while we're right there. Kanye spoke to why Black Wall Street will never happen. Well, John Legend and Big Sean and Common are why.
Exactly.
Because hold on, because here's what I mean. Because there's an underlying tension here. Oh, well, them three dudes combined, no matter how big they are, they not Ye. And they obviously got a problem with that. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the three of them should have got behind him, because that's how you build stuff. And that's why he spoke to why the Jewish community thrives the way it does. He's like, oh, they don't have to like each other, anything, like to do business and to build it and to make it grow. You don't hear about no Jewish social. He's like, they'll talk shit about each other. They're not about to kill each other.
This man had enough resources to actually get on the ballot. Get on the, like, of all the people in the whole United States, there's only a few people, a handful of people that have the resources and the ability to make it on the ballot. Your mans, who you know personally, you spent time with, have had conversations with, personal conversations. Like he said with Big Sean, I know his mom. Like, you know what I mean? And you're not only not going to support that, but you're going against it? Wow, man. So how is he supposed to feel about that?
And in the process, I want you to understand, you're making yourself look like a fool in your own community. We see how you're jumping. We don't like it. We don't respect it. And so then it makes me sit back and say, well, damn, Kanye ain't crazy at all after all.
And you know what I was thinking
that's
about
what these
too?
dudes are doing. They're making me realize, no, this dude ain't crazy at all. Y'all niggas is crazy. How about that?
It seems to always be like that in entertainment. The one that they say is crazy really wasn't crazy at all. It's everybody else.
Look at it. Just look at it on a fundamental level. That's what I'm saying. Like, take the music business out of this. Take the politics out of it. And just put these dudes in the street and tell me that plays.
It doesn't.
It don't.
It doesn't.
So it's wrong.
You know, speaking to one of your points, and I want to respond to this before I forget. And it kind of reminded me of that statement he made about LeBron James. You know, you work that hard so you can go give this white woman a trophy, and said that, you know what, Jeannie Buss, we did this for you. Here's your trophy. And it's like, it made me think, Michael Jordan is the only black owner in all of pro sports. Why aren't these guys kicking everybody over to join up over there in Charlotte to win a championship over there for the only black owner in sports? It's odd to me. No one goes to Charlotte. They never get number one picks. Nothing. It's crazy.
So listen, Mike, this is why I said if this wasn't the best interview ever, it was one of them, because it had probably been since the Tupac interview, and you can go pick one, one that I heard somebody speak from the hip hop community that was saying things that was making me take a step back and think, and that was probably the thing that made me think the most. And I love that he said that he hated it. Yeah. It made me, and so all these things that you're posing right now, I was having those same thoughts.
And the fact that there are options
about, like, hold on, like, he's making a very strong point, because look at how much power, wealth, and influence LeBron has. And then, you know, because I think he was kind of trying to expose the mentality.
Right.
You know, and it's like, ooh, I'm like, that's dangerous.
It's like, and then he exposed the mentality and the fact that it's King James. LeBron's a king. So it's like, how are you, I don't want to say how are you a king, but you know what I mean. Like, this is a guy who is probably the most influential, most powerful, and most wealthy in the league, and he still has to give it up.
Right, we're calling you King James, but you're looking like Sir Lancelot when you hand her the trophy.
Yeah, especially when there's options, right? Like, Kanye's putting his money where his mouth is. That's why he's partnering up with Ice Cube and the Big Three. I love that concept. Why aren't more people getting behind that? Why more black players aren't getting behind what LeVar Ball's doing? I think what LeVar Ball's doing is great. That's forward thinking. He's building a league where these guys have an option outside of college. He's forced college to somewhat pay these guys, because even that's some BS, because they're taking crazy percentages. And he also forced the G League to start paying these guys. Well, not start paying these guys, but start, drafting from the G League. You know what I mean?
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, so I want to kind of stay on, like, the economic part of Ye's empowerment. So one of my big takeaways from watching the interview was that Ye's mentality and mind frame and unwillingness to compromise, I can't think, and obviously financial wealth and resources being a big determining factor in all this, but why are we not getting behind Kanye and building more if he really is talking this way? Do people not trust Kanye? Do people not think it's going to go this way? Because he was talking...
I'll tell you why.
No, he was talking in a manner that really made me think, like, yo, this guy really is in a position right now to build something truly great for us, and it appears that he wants to, and it appears that he's already taking steps to do so. Why are we not getting behind him?
And he's doing interviews like this to try to galvanize people even more to help him in those efforts. Alvin Jackson says, bro, you guys couldn't be more wrong on this. All right, well, what exactly do you think we're wrong about? And, please expand upon that so we could talk it out. But
yeah, don't give us a generalized statement. Like, give us some specifics so that we can, offer some further perspective and rebuttal.
Yeah, definitely. What was I gonna say before you said that? But you're completely right as far as like, you know, what he's building. Oh, I wanted to answer why people aren't getting behind him, because the media trashes Kanye. They say he's nuts.
There,
You know, and it's like anybody. We saw this with Michael Jackson when Michael Jackson was out here basically running music publishing wise, right? And doing unprecedented deals. He's broke, he's crazy, he's this and that. You drop dead and it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, he amassed all this wealth and yada yada. Because when Michael Jackson was living, there was all kind of media stories about his financial issues. I remember he called in the Steve Harvey show in the early 2000s. Very odd pairing there, but you know, I'm sure they knew each other off, you know, behind the scenes or whatnot. And Steve was asking like, man, how are you doing financially? Like, and Michael Jackson's like, I'm fine, Steve. Of course
Mike,
he is.
Mike, you understand that we talking about Michael Jackson having financial problems, and we talking about a dude that can probably walk into any room in his house and put a sticker on a piece of art that's in the room that would take him out of trouble if he were to ever be in trouble, which he was never in. That shit is crazy.
It's insane. I mean, because even when he was doing the This Is It, right? They were paying him some crazy amount, like $6 million a show, something. And I'm like, you don't pay a broke person that. You don't pay a broke person that. But see, when you put it out there in the media, people will believe anything, and that's the first thing they do. They tear down at your character, and you know, and when they say you're broke, then it kind of reflects on you being irresponsible. And so yeah, I mean, we've seen this before, but yeah, to answer your question, that's why a lot of people aren't getting behind Kanye, and I feel like it has to be a concerted effort from whoever is paying a Big Sean or a John Legend especially. They can't go out there and side with Kanye on anything, and that's such a shame because he put you here.
But don't they understand that Kanye could pay them that now? That's what I'm saying. Don't you understand Ye could pay you that?
It's different, I guess.
It's different for them because of their mentality, which is part of what keeps this community crippled. Okay.
You're right. Because obviously it's different for Pusha T. You know what I'm saying? He don't have these issues.
Because he don't think different. Because you want to know what? Because Ye said something, and I'm glad you said something, Mike, because he said something, and this goes to Pusha T and the hustler that he is, you know what I mean, in real life and in music, or in past life and in music, I should say. Well, Ye talked about how, no, I'll pay you $300. I'm going to pay you $150 right now and see what you do for 6 months, and then we'll revisit the conversation. Oh, a hustler going to take that and run with that, and in 6 months, if you putting $150 in my account today and telling me that if I do what I need to do, in 6 months you put another $150 in my account, well, let's go, because that's how a hustler thinks. And so really, they're showing how much the fame has gotten to them too, Mike.
I mean, all of these people that he spoke on, it's more of an indictment on their practices than, I mean, because, and I hate that Big Sean is really, you know, coming out in this way, because it's making him look even worse, man. All you got to do is say, man, you know what, my bad. Whatever.
Mike, to say it, Mike, we already knew about Common and John Legend. You and me been roasting them for years, in person, in private.
Man, I mean, the John Legend one, I'm sure, I could only imagine that one hurts. Because, dude, nobody was working with you. I mean, he literally made.
Want to talk about?
Listen,
man.
I've seen. Well, I wasn't there. I know Ron has this story. He always tells when he went and saw Kanye at Earthlink Live back in the day. This is like a small venue in Atlanta. He said that John Legend was in line with them. You know what I'm saying? And Kanye came out the back door like, "Yo, he's good. He with me," type thing. They go back like that. You know what I'm saying? And those early demos and all of that, it's like, dude, really? You gonna change up on him?
Man, Mike, it's one thing to tap dance for 3 minutes. It's another thing when, like, you doing a whole stage show now. Like, you get what I'm saying?
He gave him his name, Coop. He gave him the John Legend. Kanye gave him his name.
This shit crazy, man.
It is crazy, man.
They don't look good, and I feel bad for Big Sean because it's like he got grouped with Common and John Legend yesterday, and I don't mean that in no nice way. He
deserved it though. He deserved it. I'm sorry, man. He deserved it because I looked at him kind of funny when he was out there really pushing for a vote, and he was kind of putting those notions out there. Don't let people throw off the vote. Who are you talking
Well,
about?
this is what I mean. It's like, okay, so let's speak to something right quick about
Yeah.
Big Sean. And it kind of probably applies to Common and John Legend, too, in their respective cities. I was with my homie. His lady is from Detroit. And so she hopped in my whip. And I was like, you want to hear some Detroit shit? I was like, Big Sean just dropped an EP. And she got quiet. I was like, you ain't fucking with Sean like that, huh?
Yeah.
She was like, I was like, he ain't really Detroit to y'all, is he? She was like, nah, he not really Detroit to us. And I was like, you want me to put that Boldy on? She was like, yeah, put the Boldy on.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, because let's keep it real, man. I don't think Big Sean, based on the MC and the market that Detroit is, or the MCs that Detroit has, excuse me, that he would have been able to make that local buzz to that level. Because Detroit MCs don't really, make it out and have that mainstream success that he has. That's all Kanye, man. We got to give it to him. Alvin Jackson says, I guess he was giving us the reason why he disagreed. So you got to be kidding me. Kanye was wearing a MAGA hat. His politics was a death sentence to the black. What exactly were his politics? I mean, the MAGA hat was the MAGA hat, but
I'll say, what politics did he stand on that was the death of black people exactly? Because although I do not agree with him wearing a MAGA hat, what I do see is a man with an overall vision. And I hate to be the one to just kind of point this out, even though he already did. Well, this current administration that the black community supported and got behind, they're not doing themselves any motherfucking favors right now. I cannot be more clear in stating that. And so just their failures right now don't make that hat look as bad. And we cannot understate that. And we're not about to gloss that over and make it seem like that's not happening.
It's the truth. It's the truth, man. It's this whole
pride in Kanye wearing this hat right now, if you're really paying attention. You feel me?
Are we talking about a hat or are we talking about policies? Because if we
That's
talk,
what I'm
if we
saying.
want to talk about policies, we could talk about all kind of destructive things that the current administration is involved with and has been involved with.
Supported. You got me and Mike talking at the same time. This shit wild.
Yeah, man. I mean, if we want to talk about policies, we could talk about a lot of things that the current administration is involved in, has been involved in, and has a career of doing as it pertains to the destruction of black people, if we want to talk that. But that's not what we're here to do. But do your own research when it comes to that, and it's deeper than a hat, man. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But if you want to talk about specific policies, all I heard was a brother who was out here who has the resources and has the means and has the network and the net worth out here trying to build for black people. And if all we can see is a hat, we need to look a little bit deeper. And again, that's part of our problem.
What other people from our community, the stature of Kanye, has this administration sat down with?
This is my thing, and I didn't even think we were gonna go here, but since somebody brought up the MAGA hat and all that, I think we should.
I don't like that hat.
I don't either. But the thing is, man, like the man. I know a lot of people have a problem with the fact that he went to the White House and sat down with Trump. Well, Dr. King went to the White House and sat down with a racist, Lyndon Johnson, to get things changed, right? But I don't like this mentality, and I think Ebro was, talking about this, that we're not going to go to the White House because I think he wanted Kaepernick to go with him, right? We can agree to disagree, whatever. I don't understand the mentality of not actually going to the White House to sit down in front of the commander-in-chief. That doesn't make sense. If we're sitting out here protesting for anything, right, or you want something done, you're going to have to talk to the president, regardless if you like that president or not. If you get an open invitation, okay, that's what you got to do,
So Mike, if a sports team wants to make a choice to not go, or
that's
members
different.
don't want to go, that's different.
They're not going up there to talk about anything.
Right. So I guess my thing is like, if you're looking at Kanye and you're mad at him because he went to the White House, plenty of rappers have been up in the White House by now. Starting with Easy. So what really this is more about is that I guess when Kanye was doing that, we really didn't know where Kanye stood.
Yeah.
And so he could have done a better job and should have done a better job about clarifying that. And Mike, I still don't think he's totally clarified that. That's why when I'm saying like, well, what are Ye's politics exactly?
Well, I think his thing was
because he appears to be somebody, and this, I mean, and I hate to break it to people, this is more of a Republican thought than a Democratic one, based on today's political current format. It appears he's into like empowerment and building and branding, and those are things that more align with conservative politics, to be quite frank.
Yeah, and I think that his politics or what he was around, he was up there talking to Trump about. Because I remember looking at the video and everything. It was more so about infrastructure and building, right? Like him or not, Trump is a builder. That's how he got his billions. So
that's what I was about to
who
say.
better to talk to about you trying to build factories and create jobs in America for your fashion empire than the president, who is actually a builder. And again, if we backtrack again with the whole Sway interview and all that, what his gripes were during those rants was his lack of access to resources that other fashion designers had.
Okay, so hold on.
So I think that was what his whole, sidestep over there was about. Well, and it sounds like those issues were solved.
Well, this is what I'm saying about, well, he may be not is looking as crazy today, because when he's saying the things that he's saying, about his counterparts, John Legend and Common and all of them, and how the Democrats, and then it makes you think, well, it's like, well, why didn't the Democrats sit down with Kanye before Trump did anyway, if this was Kanye's agenda? See, they didn't take him seriously. He sat down, because now I'm realizing, he sat down with who took him seriously, and I don't have to like it or agree with it, because I'm not, you're not in Ye's position of doing the things that he's trying to do, and so it doesn't look good. I'm going to give him a little more credence than I did. I just don't agree with the man that he chose to sit down with and the politics of the man just in general. So that's where my problem lies. Is just the man is just the worst person to ever hold office, and just, IQ level is so, I could go on and on. So I don't agree, but I can see some things, and I can see what he's trying to do,
I agree with you 100%.
If this administration would sit down with him, he put on a blue hat probably. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly. But really though, Coop, and I think that's what people don't understand on a larger level. That's what politics is about. I'll support you, you support me. That's what it is. And I agree with you on the fact that, people might not like who he sat down with, but honestly, why do I like me as a black man in America? Why would I have an affinity to any of the presidents that have held office? And if we can answer that question in a real way, with other than the fact that we like the way a person smiled and some of the shit that they said, like, let's be real with ourselves. At this point, it's an exchange, right? If you can do this for us, then all right, cool, whatever. And then continue to do it. And if you don't continue to do it, we're going to get somebody else in there who will do it. And that's what it's got to be.
Right. And also understand how frivolous our political system is. In the 1920s, the Republicans and Democratic parties, as we know them now, the Republicans used to have the policies that the Democrats have, and the black vote, and vice versa. Yeah. There were 3 consecutive Republican presidents in the 1920s that were in office whose economic policies led to our Great Depression. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who is a Republican, who comes from a Republican family, ran as a Democrat, as a political move to switch things up.
They still do it though, Coop. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
So Bloomberg just did it.
If he's putting on the red hat, it's like, oh man, these dudes done flipped hats so many times. You need to know your history. And that's why I was like, I want to know what his politics are. I just don't like who he chose to sit down with, because of the things that are going to come forward just from that sit down without a clear plan of action.
Mayor Bloomberg in New York, he was a sitting mayor in New York as an independent, as a Democrat, and as a Republican, and then went and ran for office as a Democrat. So let's not get caught up in all those things. Who's going to do something? And is your plan to do something going to benefit your group? That's it.
Name of the game is power and money, Mike. They don't. They care less about this than the people that they get entrenched and engulfed in.
And you're right. And that's what I try to tell people too, Coop. You're
off.
sitting here getting all fired up about it. They don't care about you. They're all going in the back room, shaking hands with each other, laughing it up.
Mike, like when I found out that Judge Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg like were friends and their children knew each other, I was like, oh.
This is WWF, baby.
I was like, what? I was like, RBG over here chilling with Scalia. I'm like, really?
All right, like, they said, let's get back to the music, man. Yeah. People are getting all bent out of shape. All right. You want to go to the Drake thing or the Just Blaze thing? Let's go to the Drake thing.
That's fine.
Let's go to Drake. So, well, first of all, and then we'll go to the Verzuz thing too, because Drake was brought up in the Verzuz sense, and N.O.R.E asked, if he would do a Verzuz with Drake, and he said yeah, and he said he would smoke him. Obviously, he would smoke him. I don't know why anybody thinks otherwise. Does anybody in the room think that Drake would beat Kanye West in a Verzuz?
Nobody thinks that.
Nobody. But my thing with the whole Drake thing is, and I guess there's so many different dimensions to this conversation. It feels like the industry built Drake up to be Kanye's replacement. And it kind of reminds me of, let's just say, Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. I think that they felt like Kanye would just step aside. Kanye ain't trying to go nowhere.
Who in their right mind, Mike, who in their right mind has seen or heard Kanye thought that there was any chance of that happening?
Or they thought they could control the climate. Because I personally think, and this kind of goes back to our conversation last episode, I don't think Kanye was a part of the plan. Kanye snuck in the game. And they have no way of getting him out. Like, when they got 50 Cent in the game, they knew how to get 50 out. But with Kanye, he snuck in here, man. And before they knew it, he was the biggest thing around. And they can't get rid of him. And I think Drake was their way of trying to get rid of him. And since it's not happening organically, it seems like they're sending Drake at him. Because I don't understand what the beef is. If anything, you should have a beef with Pusha T. And you ain't responding to that, but you still want to poke at Kanye? I don't understand.
You don't want that Pusha T smoke. You already know.
Clearly he don't want the Pusha T smoke. He let that go. Kanye sitting here courtside or ringside or whatever with Jay Prince, and you're still going at Kanye? Like, what's the problem exactly?
It feels very made for TV.
It is. And it's like no one's falling for it anymore, man. And it's like, is this where Drake is in his career, where obviously he's going to do numbers, but for credibility, you want to continuously attach yourself to Kanye? Because he did say Donda was pushing Certified Lover Boy's date back, and it is interesting when Donda had a date, then shoot, days later, we actually got a date for Certified Lover Boy.
It's very honest.
And it just seems like, some single white female type stuff going on with Drake and Kanye. They're trying to make it seem like this is a back and forth, but it seems like Drake is slightly obsessed with Kanye. What do you think?
So you said something very key. Kanye snuck in the game. So he kind of laid out some new blueprint plans of sorts.
Yeah.
And so him sneaking in and then becoming successful as he did, as fast as he did, because Kanye became very, very big, very, very fast.
Blueprint, pun intended.
Yeah, Mike, I was actually thinking about Threat off the Black Album, where you talk about lay out blueprint plans on you. Yeah, that's Ye.
Yeah,
that's what Ye really has done for this generation. He's laid out blueprint plans for people, and so Drake is the recipient of that.
He alluded to that too with the Thanos.
And so he's also, it's kind of like he's the most viable person in the eyes of the machine. But I think what the machine keeps missing, and Drake's part of the machine, so I'm including him in this, is like, oh, well, you kind of didn't sneak in on your own the way Ye did, so you can't move that way. No. Get what I'm saying? You'll never be able to move that way.
Well, I mean, I feel like Kanye created the lane that Drake rides on. Like, even Drake's whole career is kind of 808s and heartbreaks-ish. Even all right, So Far Gone clearly was a reflection of 808s and heartbreaks in the times, right? And just that whole notion of being able to do like some melodic singing but not really singing and still be considered a rapper. And I know a lot of people would be like, well, Andre 3000 with Love Below. No, that's different. That's years and years before that, and it's not even in the same vein. It was a direct reflection. So Far Gone was a direct reflection of what Kanye was doing on 808s and Heartbreaks.
No, I agree.
I mean, he even sampled some of the records. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, Say You Will.
When he spoke to the whole thing about Sade singing, that's what I mean. It's like, oh no, he's ahead. Like, because you couldn't sum Drake up any better than that. It's like, yeah, it's like our rap shit, but like, you know, Sade on the hook, you know, with it, like kind of is how he broke it down.
Damian Frederick brought up something that I want to address because it's even more confusing. He said Drake admits that Ye is his favorite artist, and that's the thing. It's like, if you understand that this man created a lane for you, and he's your favorite artist and all that stuff, where's the real problem? Why are you even going back and forth? And you understand what this man means to the culture too. Like, what's the beef? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you even going back and forth with somebody that clearly created the lane for you? You don't have no real, like, personal, real problems that we know of like that. Like, what's the issue? Why is this even a thing?
Why is it a thing?
It seems to be just for sales, honestly. That's what it comes across as.
Right. And really, if y'all want to do something just for sale, y'all need to get together and do some work, because I didn't care for either one of your projects that much. How about that?
No, for real. I mean, I understand the lane that Donda was in and all that, but the fact that you out here, and Kanye said something like, he said you leaked a song that, you know, was better than everything that was on your project.
That's that truth hurting.
What are we doing? You know? He's being honest, man. But like I said, man, I don't know. I don't know where the end game is, though. What's the end game? What's the back and forth?
No, right. So he was pretty much saying, no, this made for TV. Like, I text this fool. Like, you know, like, what up?
Well, Deontay Smith says his issue with Kanye is because of Pusha T. I don't know if that's the truth, because even with Duppy freestyle, he was going more at Kanye than he was Pusha. And my thing is, if you you know, whatever you are in rap, or you supposed to be running the game and all that, go and Pusha T. What's the problem?
That's what I'm saying. So he can't use that as an excuse. And so you spoke to something, Mike. You and I, we've known each other for a very long time. We know a lot of the same people. I guarantee you that in our circle of people that we know, there are people who get down with you that do not get down with me. If I bet you, like, they don't be like, oh, I'm not going to support Mike and according to hip hop because I don't really get down with Coop. You get what I'm saying?
No, I feel you. That's childish.
That's childish. And so I'm saying that to say that it's like, you know, the behavior of a lot of this is childish, but that happens in rap. Like, that happens. That happens with grown men in hip hop. But, you know.
Well, I liked his whole Tyson and Holyfield analogy where he's like, y'all not seeing what this man's doing behind the scenes. Y'all just seeing my reaction to it.
Right.
Like, that whole checks over stripes and all that stuff. Like, I mean, I get it.
When he brought that up and like the whole birthday party thing with his kids having to hear it and stuff, that's what I mean is like, and here was my real takeaway from everybody that he talked about in there. It's like, man, Ye kind of boxed all y'all in and didn't leave much of y'all room to say shit back that's going to resonate. Like, he hit everybody hard that he spoke about. Like, from a perspective of like, well, what are you going to say to that? Because the honesty and the candidness and the reality of it was just striking and coming through, Mike. And it's like, you can't defeat the truth.
Whether y'all like Kanye or not, and I'm seeing a lot in the comments where, you know, it's all over the place. What I do appreciate is the fact that we have a person that, whether you agree with them or not, is being honest in this industry. It's an industry of a lot of phoniness and fakeness and people saying all the right things that everybody wants to hear. It's refreshing to actually hear somebody this big and this responsible for so much that's going on being completely honest.
Mike, it was an honest talk about how he felt about artists, about music, about politics, about himself. Like when he was talking about not liking the nanny and the publicist and stuff, I'm like, oh, he's like he. So you want to know what you talk about? How like T.I. is great at seizing the moment on the track. Like he knows where he is and what the moment calls for. Well, Ye just knows that in life at this point because he realized that if he delivered well on this, it was going to be a moment, and it is now. And like he delivered, like he let it fly and delivered it to everybody. And he did it, and he didn't do it like in some sort of disrespectful sidestepping type of way. It was like in a like this is the truth, and the truth is going to hurt, and deal with it.
Yeah, no, and it's real. And speaking of which, I guess this is a segue because people want to talk about this Jay-Z and Nas thing.
We talked about it already today, like twice. Yeah.
All right. So Nas is his GOAT. He said Nas is the greatest MC of all time. He says Nas was ordained to be the greatest MC of all time. But he also said, Is That Your Chick? Jay showed that he could do some things that Nas couldn't. He also called Jay-Z selfish, but he said Jay-Z would say that about himself. It was a lot of things when it came to him and Jay and their relationship and as brothers. And he said he wouldn't do a versus against Jay. He said because Jay's the boss or his boss or whatever. But then he also said, after they asked him about the Drake thing, he said, I'm winning in any situation. So I think he thinks he would beat Jay in the verses, even though he didn't say that. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. It's a lot to unpack there. But what I will start with is, what did you think about what he said about the Watch the Throne process and Jay not wanting to give up Holy Grail, and he felt like he was giving up more on that project than Jay? Because he alluded to the fact that Otis and Niggas in Paris were his, and he gave that to the project. Well, Jay wouldn't give up Holy Grail.
So for people when they first heard that album that loved Jay, it was like, okay, you're in Kanye's zone. And so his selfishness was actually a mistake. This is what I mean about how Ye's a head and a genius of sorts. Because Ye probably seen something producer-wise that Jay couldn't see. Is like, oh, no, you don't want to be over here in my world too much. That's not going to play well with your core fan base. And it didn't. Because his core fan base is like, yo, this nigga getting out-rapped by Ye on the album. But it was more in Ye's zone. And that's that selfishness coming back to bite you, because it probably wouldn't have came off that way had you came off some of your stuff. Instead of more like what you say, Jay got more out of Ye than Ye got out of Jay. And I already know that you're going to say that, Mike, and this is the proof to it.
It is.
And so not only is it the proof, it's selfish behavior, and it hurts the project. It's like, what are you doing?
I mean, yeah, all right. So
because Ye's massive when they're making Watch the Throne. This ain't college dropout Ye. Ye's actually at this moment in time, Ye's bigger than you.
Listen, Jay-Z's only going to step in a situation when he needs you more than you need him. Even when you look at the Best of Both Worlds, R. Kelly was bigger than Jay-Z at the time, and Jay-Z really wanted to do Best of Both Worlds because of that. And this is the same thing. Like, he needed Kanye more than Kanye needed him. Kanye could have dropped another record, honestly. But I want to rewind, though. I could see, based on a lot of things that Kanye spoke about in the interview, why Nas is his favorite MC and the greatest MC to him. He's more personable lyrically. And I think Nas is just one of those MCs that for hip-hop heads, it's just staggering how great he is. And how great he was at a certain point where he was leagues ahead of people. Like on Illmatic, Nas was just leagues and leagues ahead of his peers. And shit, even at that point, ahead of some of the legends, which is, and I say that respectfully, I think they would agree with that. So I think as a hip-hop, just as a hip-hop historian, the hip-hop historian in Kanye is fascinated by that, and that's something that can never be reversed. I think we talked about this on the show. I think that's one of the things that kind of bothers Jay. He can't undo where Nas was at 19 years old and what he meant to the game. Like, you can't knock that out of people's psyche. Yeah. Like, the way that Raekwon and Ghostface talk about Nas, you can't undo that. No matter what you're doing moving forward, and I think that that's kind of where Kanye is and why Nas is his favorite MC. On top of that, to move forward from that, I think that he works with Jay because he knows. I think there's two things. I think there's an appreciation for the fact that Jay created the lane that he was able to sneak into. The avenue rather, not lane, but created the avenue where he was able to kind of sneak in and just do what he was doing, and he appreciates that, even though they don't totally agree creatively, I guess I should say. And so songs like The Joy are things that seem like, would have been more fit for Nas, right? Mm-hmm. And because that's more of where Ye kind of goes personally. Because he even said on The Blueprint, when he was like, I really didn't want the introspective Jay and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's an interesting relationship. I think they have a incredible amount of respect for one another. But
so let's
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Because I'm kind of like blabbering on, but yeah.
Let's touch on a couple things. First of all, when he made the Nas comment still after all these years, because he's made it numerous times at different points in his career, he has. One thing that I realized, and this is what I mean about how uncompromising he is, and people need to understand this about Kanye. In Kanye's mind, before Rockefeller ever put him on, before he did these records and albums with Jay, before he produced on The Blueprint, he thought Nas was the greatest MC of all time.
He's the golden child.
And there's no changing that in his mind, including you could sign me, put me on, we could make classic hits together. You could be bigger than Nas in a lot of people's eyes, but he's still the best MC to me. You're my number two. And so that spoke to me. He
never even said that, though, but yeah.
I mean, I would like to think that, though. Most likely.
Might be.
Most likely. So it speaks to how unwavering he is more than anything else. As far as their relationship, I think, and let me say something else. When we're talking about aesthetics and taste, and I've been told this about people from Chicago and Detroit, specifically in the Midwest, well, they always gravitated to Nas and Pac more than Big and Jay. Regionally, I think Nas and Pac in that region were always looked upon at a higher level than Big and Jay, or at the same level.
I can see that.
For those guys. And so that's some of Ye's preference coming in from where he's from, too, I think. As far as the relationship with Jay, Mike, I don't think there have ever been two artists of their stature in hip-hop that have a more complicated relationship, Mike.
M. Michael says Kanye is a hypocrite. Why do you think Kanye is a hypocrite?
I mean, he might be. So is Tupac.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of great men are hypocrites.
Well, they're Geminis. I mean, I think that the Gemini sign has two sides, right? And can we confuse that with being a hypocrite? Andre 3000's Gemini, and you were about to make me say Andre 3000's a hypocrite. I didn't mean to say that.
But so can Nas, so can Tupac. Like, all of these guys can be hypocritical at times. There have been at different stages in their career. Dr. Cream could be a hypocrite at times.
But, Andre 3000 is a Gemini, right? We see two sides of, those individuals, and they're very, and Lauryn Hill as well. They kind of make some of the best artists, but they're going to shift. There's a shift going on. Like, how big do you think this would be? How big do you think this Atlanta Braves celebration would be if Outkast was doing it, right? Big Boy's performing, and shout out to Big Boy, who I feel like is the king of Atlanta. I don't care what anybody says. He puts on for the city. He represents for the city, and he's been doing it nonstop since 1994. I really wish that, his partner would just be like, you know what? For the city. Be a part of this celebration real quick.
So, Mike, it's supposed to be 1 million people out at the celebration, right?
Yeah.
If Outkast was performing, it would be 2 or 3 next.
Like, what's the problem, man? Like, I don't get it.
Outkast would perform. Be 2 million, 3 million people right now if Outkast were performing.
Kendrick's a Gemini as well, too. Thank you, K. Thompson. Okay, all right. I want to get back to this this Kanye and Jay-Z relationship. I think that, and this kind of takes us on to the Just Blaze thing. I think Kanye has been responsible for Jay-Z's direction in the whole 2000s. I'm just going to say that. I think that we know in the 90s, Reasonable Doubt, it had a focus. It was focused more so on what was going on at the time, right? Production-wise, and he was telling his life. He was spitting crazy on there. We've talked about Volume 1. It just celebrated its 24th anniversary yesterday. Volume 1 was all over the place, lacked all kind of direction. Volume 2, I don't feel like had a lot of direction either. It just was able to attach to everything that was hot at the time and everyone who was hot at the time. Just consistency. But when it came to being artistically direction oriented, the Blueprint did that. Am I wrong?
Mike, it's still his most, like, as far as the way his albums are put together, that's still the album that was put together the best. It's not better than Reasonable Doubt, but it's put together better.
It is. And this is what I'll say about the Blueprint in relation to Reasonable Doubt. I think he was rapping way better on Reasonable Doubt, right? But as far as if we're talking about game changing and changing the course of what was going on at the time, the Blueprint was that album that when it came out, it made niggas change up what they were doing. And that's because of the Sonics, and from what we're understanding, that's because of the direction of Kanye West. I know we've had this conversation before, and you wanted to split the credit of Kanye and Just Blaze, and Bink is on the Blueprint as well, production-wise. But I always felt like Kanye was more of the driving force because this can't be life, right? And that soul sample that was there. And I remember when the Blueprint came out, and I heard You Don't Know. I felt like You Don't Know was probably one of the best beats I'd ever heard, right? Especially best beat I ever heard J-Rhyme on. Song Cry. Girls, Girls, Girls. And I'm like, this is back in the day when we used to check the credits and all that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yo, Just Blaze made some heat. And we already knew about Kanye because of, Izzo and Takeover and all that stuff. And I was like, and really This Can't Be Life was really Kanye's breakthrough on that. And I was like, man, I didn't know Just Blaze was on this Genesis album, this Busta Rhymes album. Let me check this song out. Shit sounded nothing like what I had heard on the Blueprint, like stylistically. So for Kanye to make the claims that Just Blaze copied him, those are notions that I've always kind of thought but never had any level of real confirmation on. I've heard Bink say similar things too, because he made 1-900 Hustle on the Dynasty, and I had always thought that Just Blaze made that stylistically. You know what I'm saying?
The horns sound like Just, but that is Bink. That's one of my favorite records out of that.
Oh, that shit is hard.
1-900 Hustle is crazy.
So without checking the credit, one would assume that Just made that record too. And Bink has kind of, I've heard that Bink has said something about Just kind of biting that, but where Kanye was like, look where I'm at and look where he's at, it's like, whoa, that was.
So that means he didn't appreciate how that process went down. So Mike, I'm going to sit here today. I've told you I've always wanted to split the credit. Well, that's till Ye just broke it down. This is what I mean. There's not too much people going to be able to get back and say about this, because Ye said just like this: I made the first half of the Blueprint and he heard my shit and then went and
based on the resume, that's believable.
And if you just look at it and then you go back and look at their placements prior to the Blueprint, Mike, it's like, oh, well, now that's totally believable.
And that makes sense.
Like, and so that's what I mean when it's like he was throwing haymakers. He was like, oh, they haymakers, but they're the truth. And that's what's making them haymakers, because the way that he was breaking stuff down and explaining it, if you know your stuff and you can go back and reference like we can with Just Blaze tracks, it's like, oh, because when I was saying split the credit, my thought about it was always like, oh, well, Ye's over here in one studio and Just is in the other, and
right.
Jay going back and forth. Ye like, nah, I was in there, did my shit, left, and he was left to listen to my shit, and that's when he did his shit. That's different.
It is different. It's very different, and I didn't know the process went down like that either. And
I'm thinking they up in baseline, studio to studio.
LP
Jay running
says
in the room, pulling to himself like Rain Man. That's how I envision it. You know what I'm saying?
LP says Kanye bit the drums off of Explosive. So, no. And I saw somebody say that in our comment section. This is the difference, right? You know that because Kanye told you that, right? And that's fine. if Just Blaze would have just been like, look, man, Kanye was the one that set the path for this. I just kind of went off of that.
You know what? All he had, I mean,
Yeah, like just keep it
wanna know
real.
why? Do you want to know why Ye made the comment? Made look at where he's at. Look at where I'm at. Is because he never gave him the credit that he's supposed to give him. Then he should have just said, "You want to know what? Like me and Kanye shared production on this album, but Ye is the one that came in and set the tone, and I piggybacked off that tone."
Exactly.
Like Mike, there don't never have to be no money exchange in hands. You don't got to kiss the nigga ass. You just got to tell the truth about how the process went.
Just keep it real. I know that. I remember Jay Dilla making a comment. Rest in peace, Jay Dilla. He was like, you know, high tech on the blast, man. You know, I could kind of hear my influence in there.
Yeah. Yes. I thought it was his beat at first. Mike, like the first time I heard the blast, I'm like, oh, that sounds like Dylan shit.
The thing is, man, just keep it real, man. That's all it is, man. And give credit where credit's due. And that's fine. Like, we're all inspired by something. And I think that, again, where Kanye jumped on there talking about, you know, he bit the drums from explosives and put it on his Can Be Life, that's him being honest and giving Dr. Dre his props. Because without that, we wouldn't have even known that he did that.
No, but giving the credit where credit is due. And so what I'm starting to see about Ye is that so all these crazy rants we're talking about, we're starting to find out, and some of it just really came out in this interview, that it's like, oh no, he's not crazy. He literally hasn't been getting his due about some things, so he's clearing a lot of shit up.
And rightfully so. I mean, if that's his truth, that's his truth. And if anybody else want to come out and, you know, say anything about it, they're welcome to do so.
Oh, I would love all the people that got talked about to come out and say something. That's going to be so fascinating.
It will
because how about this? This is what I mean. Like Talib can post what he posted. Like this is Ye. That's not going to resonate or hit like heart. Like that ain't going to do nothing. Not
well,
I think
the one thing that Kanye did that might have been a little bit out of line, and he'll probably apologize for it somewhere down the line, was him saying, you ask 99% of people, would they rather be Kanye West or Talib? They're going to say Kanye West. You know, I think that was too much, but you know.
He's not taking it back, Mike. He will not take it back. Get that. He's not apologizing for that.
You know, and I was saying this, I think I was saying this to you. I was like, man, and I think it was during the election season. I don't want to get back on that. But just seeing how people like Common, John Legend, and Big Sean and them are moving, I was like, man, Kanye is being a real big person for not putting these guys on blast. Well,
Mike, I think you might have said that on one of these shows, and you've definitely been saying that behind the scenes for quite some time. Y'all don't know how many times, Mike, we done been just talking about some rap shit in Common or John Legend that came up, and it's been 30 minutes of Mike just going in.
Yeah, man. I mean, because it's like, this is the thing, man. It's like, it's hard work, man. It's hard work out here doing what you do on your own. But when you actually go out here and put forth efforts to make ways for other people, selflessly, because I know Kanye comes across as a very self-centered individual sometimes, but if we look at what he's done as a producer, he's been very selfless in a lot of his efforts. You look at Daytona, you look at The Blueprint, you look at B, he's been very selfless.
Albums, Mike. Just those 3 albums
alone.
Yeah,
just those 3 albums. And not even to mention what he's done for other guys' careers, not to mention what 808s and Heartbreaks has done for other guys' careers extended outside of that. It's like, at least show some respect. And I think that's what all of this is about. Respect, man. Like, don't be out here letting people get in your ear talking down on me. Like, I helped you. Period. Like, I helped you.
I think part of the reason why he fuck with Game is just because, like, he give Game tracks because Game always, like, bigs him up and gives him his proper due and respect. I think that's why Game can always get a track.
I think Wayne, too.
Yeah. Like, certain dudes can always get a track from Ye, but it's like you listen to how they talk about him, and then it's like, oh, well, that makes sense. And it's like, and so let's discuss something right quick. Is he arrogant? Yeah. Can he be self-centered? Yeah. But, Mike, look at this catalog. Like, when he's calling himself great and wants to be treated like he's great, it's like, well, I'm going to have to agree with that shit. Look at this catalog. Look at his catalog. Look at the 3 albums that we named, that he executive produced masterfully for 3 succinctly different artists.
Well, I'm glad he's getting on board with our concept of Kanye versus Kanye in the verses, because that's
Okay.
all we
Okay.
need. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need
Mike,
Kanye the producer versus Kanye the MC, man. There's nobody else to go
Mike,
against him.
I'm gonna scream this from the hills, Mike. You were the first person to say it. You're taking all the credit for that. When you said it, I was like, "That's the best hip hop comment of the year." Ye versus Ye.
I mean, I don't know if he saw the show or maybe great minds think alike, but I mean,
Hey,
it's the only thing that makes sense.
Mike, it was funny because if you were watching that point, you could see how fast his mind was moving and how excited he was getting at the thought of him versus him. He was like, "Oh yeah, college dropout versus my beautiful. Oh, ain't nothing touching my beautiful dark twisted fantasy. Okay, college dropout versus graduation. Oh, Mike, he was ready to go. I
Oh,
told
Ye
you.
versus New Ye. But nah, I don't even want to do that. I want to do the artist versus the
New
producer,
Ye getting
man.
waxed. New Ye gonna get waxed if
Yeah,
you go.
because that
Yes,
wouldn't even be fair to the New Ye. But
right.
But yeah, man, I thought that was really, really interesting in the fact that he even brought that part of it up, because there really is nobody for him in a versus. He can do too much. And it's kind of like what we were talking about with the Misty and Busta Rhymes. Like, I don't even want to shortchange, and I say this respectfully to Busta Rhymes, I don't want to shortchange Missy like that. Like, all she has is her rap stuff like The Rain or whatever. No, she's done so much writing, that's not even fair to her to have to compartmentalize just one part of her career to be matched up with another person. She needs to be matched up with another rapper slash songwriter producer. And in Kanye's space, there's nobody else but him. He only needs to be matched up with him, because he would wax anybody else. Point blank period. Even Dr. Dre, as great as Dr. Dre is, what happens when he start playing, a Through the Wire or something like that, or it's not fair. And he's such a head. He's gonna pick great songs too. That's the other part.
Would they get to use? Would they get to use the records that they've produced as well?
Why not? Babyface did.
So I'm going to tell you something. When you're saying that he would do that to Dr. Dre too, Mike, I think that it would be a great battle. But here's what I'm going to tell you. He doesn't have as many iconic singles. He has great singles. He has classic singles, but it's not going to be as iconic as some of Dre's stuff. So I'm still going to give Dre the slight edge. It's not going to be as iconic.
I think.
Because Murder Was the Case, Nothing But a G thing, like that's different, Mike. It
is.
I'm sorry, like you talking about what he gonna do when he play Through the Wire. It's like, oh, he gonna play Nothing But a G thing, or Next Episode,
well, listen,
or Explosive,
you know me,
or Still Dre Day, or Dre Day, Mike, or Let Me Ride. Like, what do you mean? Or you gonna play In the Club, Mike? Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, what you mean? Or It's Funky Enough by the DLC, or Straight Outta Compton. Listen. His shit is iconic. Like that's where LL and Dre are comparable. It's like, it's not just that they're hits and that it's big. It's that when you sit it down and you pair it next to somebody else, it's like, oh, well, that's just not as iconic. It's like, yeah, Jay's a hit maker, but you and I just ran down LL's hits. Jay's hits aren't as iconic as LL's hits now, are they?
I think this is slightly different, right? Because let me rewind real quick, because I said this last year on the show, right? I said this last year. Dr. Dre's stuff comes through the speakers very different. But this is the thing about Kanye that's very different too. He's such a head, so smart, and he has such a range of things to pull from.
What is Dre?
No, I agree. But see, Dre doesn't hit people on a personal level. I think Kanye has that odd pairing where he's able to pull that Scarface, Tupac type of personalization to things. And he doesn't care about the hits like that, right? He has the hits, but he could play something like, the song about his mama. He doesn't care.
Mike,
he'll let it all hang out.
No, Mike, my favorite Kanye song is Roses off Late Registration.
I think he's so smart that if he were going up against Dr. Dre or something like that, he knows that those songs are iconic, so he'll go the other direction.
It's not gonna work, but I hear
don't know. I don't know.
I think but see, Mike, want to mock verse it? Dre verse Ye?
I would love that. I would love that. Yeah, we should mock verse that. Yo, I just think that Kanye's one of the more brilliant minds ever in hip hop. Right there with the Q-tips. It's just
last night's proof. Yeah, last night's proof.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. I mean,
He knows exactly what he's doing. It's
you know
true.
what was real proof for me? It was Daytona. Everything that he was going through at that time, the MAGA hat was strong at that time. He had just come off that TMZ interview and the Charlemagne interview. And dude, you made this? This don't even sound like Kanye, honestly. Like he went away from a lot of the things that we know him for. Like he said, you can have soul drums Kanye versus trap drums Kanye.
So no, so here's what he did for Pusha T, and I realized, and when you're saying that, I just had an epiphany. It's like, oh man, he's a head's head. You want to know what he did for Pusha T on Daytona? The same thing that the Neptunes did on Hell Hath No Fury.
He did, yeah.
He. It's him in terms of what he do, but he switched it up to fit what that guy does best.
I don't know which one I'm more impressed by, Daytona or B, because B is incredibly impressive. When you think back at the time and what was going on at that time, he totally was like, as a fan, he's like, listen, this is where I see this thing going. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, Mike, he was made to make that album for Common. So when you say that, it's like, Mike, I don't think for any one album there's been a better pairing.
Right.
Not for one album. Like for one album, it's like, no, that was magic. He gave Common exactly what he needed.
He gave Common a whole new image.
And when he didn't, there was Dilla.
And Dilla had passed at that time. So
yeah,
he was
but that's
able
what I mean,
to pick.
Track-wise. I'm talking track-wise. Yeah.
So he was able to they were kind of able to fit some of that stuff in without actually working with them, which is impressive too.
No, it's brilliant, but it was easier to do than Daytona. That's what I'm saying. It was easier to do Bait. The degree of difficulty on Daytona is higher because of all the personal issues.
But it's short too. That's where the degree of difficulty kind of
because of the brevity album, because of the brevity in recording time, like all of those things. Like y'all did that in what many days?
Right. And then he already had on the board that he was about to do a Nas album, about to do his own album, about to do one with Kid Cudi.
Right. Yeah. And you have to think, the head in him, and this is what I mean about how he really did a job with Daytona. Oh, somebody that knows they're about to do a record with Nas that's cranking out the songs that he was cranking out for Pusha T, usually will hold something for somebody like Nas. He ain't hold shit. He's like, no, I'll give him some other shit. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, this is where, and this doesn't really go towards the Verzuz conversation with Dr. Dre, where I've always kind of separated Kanye and Dr. Dre as producers, and not really beat makers, but just producers of hip-hop artists. Dr. Dre doesn't do well with established artists, where Dr. Dre does wonders with new artists because he can mold them and he can create their whole identity. And when, he has established artists, you get what happens with Rakim, right? You get what happened with The Firm. You get, Eve coming back and never really putting anything out. Big Bang took forever to come out. When it came out, it was cool, but it's cool. It's not their best work. Kanye's proven that he can do this with new artists, established artists, and he's not gonna have you sitting here waiting on the shelf for a long time either. Because if Kanye gets you, you're coming out with something.
Mike, I would submit to you that Ye is, and this is part of his genius, he actually does better with seasoned artists because he's heard them, and so he kind of knows what he needs to give them because he's that versatile as a producer. Dre is still arguably our greatest producer ever, but you kind of know what he's going to give you too, and that's what makes Ye more built to do something like a Blueprint or a
Is it not a...
Tone.
It's kind of like that. All right, I kind of correlate it to if we're talking about a college coach and a professional coach. I kind of give the more credence to the professional coach that has to deal with the athletes that get paid more than them, that have egos, that have the power to push you out the door, as opposed to a college coach that's like, your whole destiny's in my hands. And that's kind of where Dre is when it comes to newer artists. It's incredible work, obviously, it stands on its own. But you got total creative control with this new artist, whereas I think it would be difficult, at least more difficult, to work with somebody who's already set in their ways, knows that they're great, and not really looking for you to give them too much direction, but you're still able to give it to them on some Phil Jackson subliminal Zen master type shit.
And I get what you're saying, but also too, never underestimate this. Oh, nobody who's been with Dr. Dre has sounded better after dealing with him, except for Nas. Everybody else hasn't.
Well, see, Nas was before him. I don't count Nas.
Right. So everybody who he's kind of bought in, they sound their best with him even still to this day. I mean, Cube would be the exception.
Cube would be the exception. I was gonna say, is that a good thing though? Because I mean, I think that it says something when people that come from Greg Popovich's system, coaching wise, are able to go off and be successful on their own.
So I like the basketball analogy, Mike, but let me frame it for you like on a collegiate level. You know, I'm from Charlotte, so the Duke, North Carolina thing is big. I'm a Duke fan. As a Duke fan, what people, and when I'm saying Carolina Duke, I'm talking Dean Smith, Coach K, since we're talking about coaches.
Right.
I think that all the Carolina fans used to always tell me growing up is be like, yeah, but when they get to the league, you know, Dean get people more ready for the league than Coach K. Coach K's players in the league be role players. We got Michael Jordan, Sam Perkins, James Worthy. You know what I'm saying? Kenny Smith, Brad Doherty. Like, I can go on and on. Been having this argument my whole damn life. And so Kanye, so the Kanye Dre thing may be more like a Dean Smith, Coach K thing where it's like, Kanye has the artists more prepared to go forward, but they both at a high level winning championships on the same level. That's why I brought up Dean Smith, Coach K.
I would give more credence to Dean Smith because Coach K, you can go out there and get people who fit your mold. You're right. You know what I'm saying? Like especially in college basketball.
Don't get it twisted. No. Don't get it twisted. Dean Smith had a system. You're gonna play Dean Smith.
No. I'm just saying, like with Coach K, right? You could go out there and recruit guys that you know might not be the greats on that next level, but they're good for you at the moment, right? Whereas Dean Smith is like, yo, I'm gonna take that chance on the best talent, and I'm gonna work it. You know what I'm saying? Put in the work to actually mold them into my system. That's more work.
No. You're right about that because it's like I'll give you an example of somebody. Oh, no chance in hell Rasheed Wallace was going to Duke. He knew it. We knew it. Everybody knew it. He was going to Carolina.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Dean Smith took on Sheed and like guys like that. Like, yeah.
I'm sorry, man. If I'm I guess it depends on your situation, but I know at least if I work with Kanye as an artist, my stuff's gonna come out. That's the question.
That's what I mean about he prepares you better for the league. Because I'll tell you what, Mike, all the great Duke players that are great in the NBA, we knew they was going to be great in the NBA when they showed up. Starting with Grant Hill. Like when Grant Hill walked on the floor, like, yep, that guy's about to be an all-star in the NBA.
What Grant Hill's
doing. That wasn't necessarily something that Coach K did. Like he came in and you was like, yeah, so he's a top 5 pick in 2 or 3 years. You know what I'm saying?
I want to get to the impact part of the conversation, man, because we really deep in here, and we're like an hour and a half in, man. I know people requested earlier for us to talk about him saying that Bone Crusher's Never Scared was the start of Atlanta's wave. Or Atlanta taking over, excuse me.
Hold on, Mike. When did Never Scared come out exactly?
I think Never Scared was 02.
02? Yeah, I feel like it came out like the spring or summer after I moved back down here, so that would be about right.
Again, man, I heard the joint really early, so it's hard for me to even say. They say on Wikipedia it was released in 03, but let me tell you my story.
Hold on, so Mike, that was like the year after you graduated high school, right?
Nah. I graduated in 2000, but I was heavy interning at the time.
Right.
I was at Georgia State at the time. It says that it was released April of 2003. I remember getting that, and I'll have to go back and check my dates or whatever. I remember getting that song when I was at the radio station early 02. Might have been 01.
Before that, we heard that record in 02. Mike.
You know what? I can find this real quick because it was when Kings of Crunk came out, because I ran into Bone Crusher when Kings of Crunk came out. Let me get a date on Kings of Crunk real quick.
He used to be everywhere around the city. I used to run into him. He'd be everywhere. Yeah. He'd bring his whole family out.
Okay, yeah. Kings of Crunk was October 02. So I was working at the station. I was interning at the station with Scorpio, DJ Scorpio. Shout out to him. He was working with Lil Jon at the time. And so while they were promoting Kings of Crunk, we was kind of going around the city with Lil Jon, and we went to Greenbrier Mall in the beginning of the day, went to West End or whatever, and ended the night at the Roxy in Buckhead where Lil Jon was performing. And after we were cleaning up and everything, Bone Crusher, came up to us, the interns and stuff. He was giving us his CDs. Like, I got this joint. It was like one of those blank CDs from back in the day where he wrote on it, where it just said "Never Scared." And you know what I'm saying? Took it to the car, checked it out. I was like, oh, this shit goes hard. Big Killer Mike's verse really stood out to me. And obviously T.I. was already doing his thing. He was in between I'm Serious and just doing the In the Streets mixtapes. That was before trap music. Dope Boy Fresh was on the radio. I know he killed that song. And so I was like, T.I. snapped on here too. Anyway, I kept listening to the song, and then months later, because back then, stuff took forever to get to the radio, to video and all that. And I would say maybe like 6 months later or whatever, it was on the radio, and then it exploded once JD signed Bone Crusher to So Def. And the video was on 106, and that joint stayed on 106. And long story short, I can agree with Kanye in saying that Never Scared kind of started that run that Atlanta has been on. I know Jermaine Dupri posted about it. Fabulous was in the comment section saying, nah, it was Lil Jon's B.I.B.I. And I'm like, nah, I mean, those songs were around, but it didn't start the run.
Yeah.
And I think the run is because Never Scared was one of those few songs that still had like sonically what was going on in Atlanta, but the guys that were on it were rapping. Like Killer Mike was rapping. T.I. was rapping on there. And I think when people heard that, that's when you get those remixes where it had Jadakiss on it, Cameron on it, and and it was just a huge song. I mean, people know Bone Crusher. I mean, even to this day, if you say Bone Crusher, Never Scared, they know what you're talking about. It's a big song.
So, Mike, I think the strongest element about that song and what really made it the song that it took Atlanta and just kind of took the region to its next level, you spoke to it. Well, it was a down south track, but the down south MCs on the track were MCs. And so it kind of not only perked up ears for the region, but outside this region. Like
it was one of those moments too where they stayed true to it. It wasn't like they were trying to cater to the West Coast or New York.
I mean, that's a Southern record with Southern MCs, but that's where you realize it's like, oh no, these dudes got more guys that can spit now. It's just not Outkast and Goody Mob that can rap. These dudes got MCs, and so that's what Tip and Killer Mike did for that song. And Mike, for me, I mean, and we talked about it behind the scenes, like Dope Boy Fresh in this song, for me, are what catapulted like T.I. into trap music. Like for me, because I remember the buzz about him off his verses on these two records being part of just his momentum.
The momentum for T.I., like you said, was the mixtapes and all that, and that song was a big one on it because that was on one of those In the Streets mixtapes. I forgot which volume. I think it was volume 2. Because I was looking for the song too, because you know how you used to lose a CD back in the day? And I was looking for the shit. But anyway, his buzz in the city was based on those mixtapes, but on a mainstream level, once this thing got to 106 or whatever, the momentum was turning into something else, where it was like people outside of the Southeast were looking for T.I. Some people in the chat were saying that the Youngbloods Damn was the record. Nah, that was well after Never Scared.
That's like 2 years after Never Scared.
Because when So Def signed Bone Crusher, that was a new wave of what So Def was trying to do. Because Bone Crusher was first, and then the Youngbloods went over there, and I want to say Franchise Boys and all that was after that. But yeah, it was interesting because the Addict crew seemed to be going to So Def, and So Def was gaining its credibility, in ways where people had always kind of said So Def really wasn't the Atlanta sound and this and that, but Addict Crew was getting the exposure, and it was kind of like a one hand wash the other type of thing. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, the PA T.I. I guess not collaboration, but you know what I mean, connection.
Connection. Yeah,
Yeah,
their
so it's
connection.
really interesting when you think about it in those terms. But Atlanta is one of those big small cities where
Yeah.
everybody
Both.
is kind of interconnected in some sort of way. What
Right,
did you
right.
think about when N.O.R.E was like, I guess when Kanye was given the credit to Never Scared, you know, the first thing people would go to is Outkast and Goody Mob. Like, what about Outkast and Goody Mob?
I mean, he said something when he was like, "Oh, well, they wouldn't really like street."
I think you know the interesting thing about that. I understand what he was trying to say. I always felt like Goody Mob was like for the streets, and obviously you know Ghetto Mafia, Outkast was just so big, and they just got so big that they weren't, I guess, considered that. But I don't think that Outkast and Goody Mob, respectfully, were a part of that new wave of what Atlanta was doing. It's
They,
almost like they raised a child that went
Mike,
on and did its own thing.
yeah, they're the battery in the back.
They're
Like that new
definitely the
Atlanta that
foundation.
you see, they're charged up because of what they saw Outkast and Goody do. But also too, and this needs not be forgotten. Oh no, Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music is on some street shit. That's a street album, Mike.
Oh yeah.
And so they earned their bones and got their strength up off the strength of a street album. It's the only street album out the camp, actually. But Southern Playalistic, a street album, Mike.
You
Claiming
don't
True.
feel like Soul Food is a
Ain't No
street
Thing.
album?
Nah, Mike, not like
Really? Okay.
Mike, when I'm saying street album on Ain't No Thing, Dre's like 357 to your foe head,
I
they'll
got
be
you.
mo dead. You get what I'm saying? You know, they talking that street shit on Southern Playalistic. You don't find that on any of the other projects. And so the infrastructure for what the Dungeon family became, it was built off some street Atlanta rap shit though.
The Dungeon family created. It was a big part, if not the biggest
I'm not saying
part.
it wasn't
Of,
in the streets. I'm talking about how the music is coming off.
no, I got you, and I'm being careful with my words because I don't want to leave out Ghetto Mafia. I don't want to leave out
30.
the Attic Crew, PA. I don't want to leave out, you know what I'm saying,
30, right?
Raheem, Kilo, and all of that. But when we're talking about, you know, the rap scene, I think the biggest piece of what Atlanta had going on in the 90s, mid to late 90s, early 90s, was Outkast and Goody Mob. And they created that lane that people like T.I., you know, Jeezy, Gucci, and all of them were able to ride on.
So this, I mean, hold on, Mike. So let me say something. This is what I mean is like, oh no, they motivated the streets by what they were doing, and they had the streets. The rhetoric wasn't street. Like they had the streets, they motivated the streets. The rhetoric on the albums wasn't your street talk. You know what I mean?
And we're gonna be completely honest
they
here.
did classic stuff without having to do that.
Definitely. And K. Thompson said something that I do want to piggyback off of. He said Outkast went commercial around Never Scared era. And that's the truth. Like around 2002, 2003-ish, Outkast legacy was pretty much cemented and they were on some other shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think that the local scene of Atlanta was kind of left to its own devices. And, you know, the people who were next took it from here. And I think that ball that was picked up is what went running, and I think that's what Kanye's talking about. Go ahead.
No, and he's right. And you and I spoke about this. Well, the ball didn't get dropped till Goody Mob made World Party, and that's kind of when the new Atlanta really started. Because that was the first product that came out of that camp that had, because here's the thing about it. Like, especially down here, Mike, you notice everybody fuck with Cass and Goody. That was the first project at that camp that people down here didn't fuck with. And that opened up the lane. And what you saw a couple years later was T.I.
Well, see, and then in that interim, right? And I think we spoke about this a couple of episodes ago, giving Pastor Troy his flowers, right? In that interim, we can't forget people like Troy, Baby D, Big you know what I'm saying? You know, Intoxicated, Sammy Sam, all that. But that's Atlanta stuff. Like, if you talk to somebody, like my fiance is from Cleveland, if I talk to her about some of these names I mentioned, they don't know who you're talking about. But when we're talking about this wave that Atlanta's been able to pick up and kind of take over the game, I think it does start with Never Scared on a national level. You know what I'm saying? Not saying they created anything here that wasn't here, but for the national recognition for that particular sound, That's it. That's the one.
Mike, Mike, this is what I'm saying too. Is that like I feel like this record is the reason why 24 has got such heavy rotation
Definitely.
nationally.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
That's
song
why
has something
it's
to do
why
with
trap
that.
music got so much attention.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I don't know what the chronological order of this is because I hear a lot of different things, and T.I.'s told a bunch of different stories, even himself. But I think that Never Scared probably has something to do with him signing the Warner Brothers after being dropped from, Arista. I don't know which one happened first. I don't know if he went in L.A. Reid's office and asked L.A. Reid to let him go, but it's hard for me to think if a song like Never Scared was out there, that L.A. Reid would have just let him go like that.
And this is why I say this. It's like 24s was one of those songs. One of the first songs that I heard from a young artist coming out of Atlanta that was on national TV shortly after it was released.
Yeah.
That's when I knew
Never
it was
Scared
on.
did
Because
that.
it was like, we weren't riding around listening to 24s for months without a video. It's like, no, that shit had a video and was playing everywhere really quick. It was like, oh.
Oh, and then, you know what I'm saying, when it got rotation and he was calling people to come out for the video shoot, people was there.
I remember.
Never Scared, that verse on Never Scared did that, man. That verse on Never Scared changed the trajectory of T.I.'s career, and I guess we don't talk about that enough. I mean, I always thought Dope Boys in the Trap did it too, but if we talk about on a national level, Dope Boys in the Trap did it on a local level. On a national level, that was Never Scared.
Never Scared.
Point blank, period. And I'm going to have to agree with Kanye on that, and it's really interesting that he was able to bring forth that kind of insight, not being a person that, I guess, is quote-unquote from Atlanta. He's born in Atlanta.
Well, no, Mike, but if you go listen to his telling the story about the Mitchell and Ness jerseys, where is he coming to get the Mitchell and Ness jerseys? He's coming down to Atlanta.
I've heard him tell that story even in more detail. He gives Big Boy the credit. That's why he, pointed out that Astros jersey. I remember when Big Boy wore that Astros jersey in the Black Ice video. We all were in school like, yo, what is he? What? Yo. And so I remember Kanye giving Big Boy that credit, and he was saying that, yo, he saw that and would come to Atlanta, and there was a Mitchell and Ness stand where Big Boy got that from, and he was putting Rockefeller artists onto the throwbacks and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to tell you a funny story right quick.
What's that?
And all the heads will love this. They just had throwback day, fashion-wise and music-wise, at my daughter's school. So they all dressed up like their parents' throwback jerseys and hats and like all this stuff. And she was asking me if I used to have some jerseys. I was like, yeah. I was like, I had jerseys like way before you were born and stuff. She was like, I wish you would have kept them. I could have rocked one. She was like, because all of us realized y'all really are cooler and did have better fashion sense. Our clothes and our music sucks.
Coming back around,
Coming back around.
I think we all admire our parents' generation. I still think that the 70s had the best era of music. I think the 70s is definitely the best decade of music. So, I think it's cool that we can all admire each other. And I think that, the generation after her is going to admire what's going on now. So
I thought it was cool that the kids at school were rocking Mitchell and Ness throwback jerseys and hoop rings and shit. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I ain't saying who was the first to do it, man, but Big Boy is the first person that I ever seen do it.
Oh, he's the first, Mike. No, he was the first.
To hear Kanye West say that he saw Big Boy doing it and he's the person that brought it to Rockefeller, it's interesting, man, because a lot of the stuff that he says about Jay, he keeps it respectful. But if you really listen, it's kind of like Big Brother, like the song, right? It's almost like their relationship is, and I wanted to get to this earlier. Their relationship seems to be one of those things where he's giving sideswiped compliments where it's like, nah, I ain't dissing Jay, but this is what he did. But, whatever, that's Jay.
It's complicated, Mike. It's complicated.
It's pretty funny.
Because everything Ye talks about in that interview has clarity except for the relationship with Jay. I'm like, oh, the relationship's very complicated.
I think there is clarity in that. It sounds like he's saying, yo, he got everything from me without saying it.
I mean, Mike, you want to know what I thought about when he was talking about how they got all the jersey things from him? I was thinking about when the source gave the blueprint 5 mics and he's in the Jets jersey.
I gave him his image, but hey, he's my boss, Work for hire. I mean, that's what I get from a lot of his Jay-Z stories. And it's funny because
I think he's really saying it's like, I know y'all keep saying he's the king, but if you will just keep on looking a little bit closer, if you just come in, focus a little bit closer. Hey, guy right behind him.
You know, he didn't get a shout out in Jay's incredible Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speech, did he?
Oh, I know that. That's what I mean. The relationship's very complicated.
It's funny, man. Like, I think that Jay's needed him really for the latter 20-something years of his career. Because you were just talking about Holy Grail, and I think that's why he kind of brought that up too. He was asking for the Justin Timberlake song for it to be on Watch the Throne, right?
Right.
Well, we see what that album was like without Kanye's involvement, right?
Mike, you want to know?
Holy Grail is probably his worst album.
Mike, you don't know what I was just thinking about?
What's that?
If Otis and Ham weren't going to be on Watch the Throne, I wouldn't have picked up Watch the Throne. That was my number 1 and 2 reasons for picking up Watch the Throne. If that would have been on a Ye album, I just would have picked up Ye shit.
All right, let's look at the Blueprint 3. Who had a lot to do with that? That's Kanye's direction. You know, American Gangster is Diddy and Sean and LC's direction. So, you know, he said, Diddy's his twin, right? And after that, when he kind of let Jay do his own thing, because I think the first Blueprint is clearly Kanye, right? The Blueprint 2 wasn't all Kanye, so it was kind of a debacle, right?
A tour bus album.
Tour bus album, that's a good way to put it. The Black album,
that might be the best project Jay put together for himself by himself.
I think so too. I agree. Yeah. I agree.
I didn't love all of the choices, but enough great choices on there, you know?
He did what he wanted to do, and it turned out really well. But who was the... I'm trying to think. Like, yeah, you're right. He did put that together because when you look at the Fade to Black album, he was all over the place just trying to, you know, piece it together.
Right. He got Quick. He got Rick Rubin. He got M. He got Just. He got Ninth Wonder. He got Ye. Who am I missing?
He had Quick, M, Ye, Just Blaze, Ninth Wonder, the Neptunes.
Neptunes. There we go. Timbaland.
Yeah, he put that together himself. That's a lot of... How can you fail?
I would have scrapped the M track, and I would have asked Quick to give me another beat than that one because I think Quick had something harder for him in there.
You didn't like Justify My Thug?
I liked it. I didn't love it.
Okay. Well, you know what? I know that you're probably about to head out to this Braves parade, right? I want to cover one more thing, man. The impact conversation. And he said something that I've said, that Future is the most impactful artist of the 2010s.
Mike, I knew you were going to say that. My cousin down in Noonan, Markovici, is up there shouting at the top of his lungs right now. And Mike, you want to know what? You and I have talked about this before. This is what I mean. When he was talking, I felt like it was me and you having the conversation. It's like, oh, well, that's one of Mike's points that he's taking right there about how influential Future is. And when you look at it, Mike, there's a whole subgenre of rap. And Future's a creator of it.
He is. I mean, like I said, my Mount Rushmore of Atlanta, just being fair, I'm going to have to say Dre, Big Boy, T.I., and Future.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Mike, I mean, his influence is just heavier than Jeezy's.
The other thing I wanted to kind of not really gloss over, but it was interesting that he brought up the point that when Jay said death of auto-tune, nothing happened. You heard him say that? Mm-hmm. It got stronger. Again, another one of those. Yeah, you're not.
Shit. It's very complicated, Mike.
It's interesting, and then he also cited Soulja Boy as one of the
five most impactful. He was taking so many they were like little quick side swipes, but he was saying them so calmly and matter of factly, and it's like, oh, like it really made me realize it's like, oh, y'all deal with each other on this shady level all the time. That's very complicated.
You know, it was like a hip hop conversation, and I think that's what the interview was so cool for. It was like he was speaking as a person that's been involved, that knows these people, talking about his personal experiences, and he was talking as a fan a little bit too.
Yeah.
I think the Talib thing is him talking as a fan. I don't think he's a fan of Talib's approach.
See, that's what I mean. No. I believe him when he says that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that no, that is his truth. This is the dude from Chi-Town that grew up loving Common. It's like, yeah, he's 1,000 times better than Common. Sounds like a nigga from Chicago.
Yeah, and you know the respect that Kanye has for Common, I think that was one of the things that was awesome as well. And I don't want anybody to think that we shitting on Common, but I just think
still
that
roasted him too. That's what I mean.
he did. But let's just keep it real though. I think that Common's in that conversation of artists that moving forward. I don't know if he's adding to his legacy. I think he's dropping from lists continuously going. And I hate to do that because people are putting in work and you gotta, it's admirable that someone is still putting in work, but, to what avail? I mean, we could say the same thing about Snoop Dogg to some degree, and I think he's done that in his career too.
Yeah.
But it comes down to impact, and I think overall, man, I don't know. And I don't want to be prisoner of the moment. I think Kanye might be, well, he's definitely the most impactful artist of the 2000s on. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anybody more impactful than Tupac, but I don't know, man. I think that if we talk about everything that this guy's been a part of, if we check off all the boxes, we check off his individual resume, it's hard to say that anybody moving forward in the 2000s, since he's dropped in 2004, it's hard to say that there's been anybody more impactful, especially since the people who are roaming the earth now are clearly his sons.
Yeah. Impact is large, Mike. It's large.
I think even to a degree, one could deduce that Kendrick Lamar is his son.
No, I mean, there's some of that, the creative license that Kendrick makes his albums with. I mean, Mike, when I think about, the true masterpieces like post Jay and Nas's prime, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Good Kid, Mad City are the first two albums that I typically think of.
I think My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy helped To Pimp a Butterfly and Good Kid, Mad City come together in the way that it had.
Do you think it's better? Do you think it's better than those records?
I don't know. It's a good conversation. It's one of those things where My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is hitting every box on a technical level, and I feel like those Kendrick albums do that too. But Kendrick's just the superior MC, but I think that Kanye's the superior songmaker. So it's one of those things where it's like, if we're rolling in a dead tie or a tie-ish area, you got to go off the impactful records. And I think that My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy has the bigger records of the two. If I have to go there.
Well, see, here's why I'll tell you why I would take My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy over both of those albums, even though the head in me listens to Good Kid, Mad City more because I like my rap shit more. Right. But I think people understate on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Oh, Ye is rhyming his ass off. Go listen to Gorgeous.
Actually, you're right. I think that's some of the best that he's ever rhymed in his career.
Like his verses on Power, although that was the lead single, that was very Biggie-ish, the way he was talking reckless on a lead single.
Yeah,
and
man,
I loved it.
The system's broken, the school, yeah.
So it just like that, the comparable albums, but Ye's big moments on there are big because even the tracks that aren't singles are big, like So Appalled, Monster, like those records are massive.
I wasn't even going to say so. Well, I was going to say Devil in a New Dress.
Yeah, that might have been Ross's coming out verse as like a top-notch MC. I had never heard Ross like rhyme on that level, really. Like there were some snippets of it, but that was a verse where I was like, yo, he going crazy.
Well, you know what? That album kind of made way for the new generation of what was about to happen. Nicki had her breakthrough verse on there. Pusha had a few moments on there. Saha had a moment on there. Kid Cudi was already kind of moving, so I don't know if I want to count that, but yeah.
Mike, he rhyming on there, Mike. Too many Urkels. That's why your wins low.
Yeah. Yeah, Gorgeous. His verses on there were crazy, man. The what's the
Look at the Black Beetle anyway.
Yeah.
A fucking roach. I guess that's why they got me sitting there and fucking coach. My guy told me I need a different approach because people is looking at me like I'm sniffing coke. It's not funny anymore. Try different jokes. Tell them hug and kiss my ass. X and O.
And kiss the ring while you at it. Play strings for the dramatic, all up in that whack shit. Act like I ain't got a belt in 2 classes. If I ain't got it, I'm coming after whoever who has it. Man.
Whoever who has it. You blowing up. That's good. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm giving it to that album.
Yeah, it's that album.
Yeah, and just everything that comes from him. I mean, I ain't trying to drink the Kanye Kool-Aid or whatever, but we got to give people their props on, what they've done. And we also have to recognize and realize why this person is such an icon. It's because of the music.
Right. And so let's go back to the last time we were talking about Kanye. We were talking about Donda and how I didn't agree personally with how he was handling some things. Well, you see, it's our job to give people, be accurate about like what we're feeling and what we're seeing, but also to give people their due. This is a day where he deserves his due.
Almost definitely. Yeah, it was so much to unpack from that. And, if you guys haven't seen the interview, check it out. It's a lot. And I'm sure some things that we missed that we're probably going to talk about in later episodes. But, yeah, man, I didn't even expect to talk about this today. But we're talking about it. Did you hear the new Travis Scott songs that came out? We didn't even get a chance to talk about any new music.
We might have to come back and do it tomorrow.
Shit's is kind of hard. I can't even front.
You want to talk about it tomorrow? What are we looking like?
Tomorrow will be tough, but we'll see what we can do. And if anything, we'll hit it top of next week or something like that. Terminator 2 says, Mike D, I remember y'all saying Eminem had no classic albums, no impact on hip hop. Where's Eminem coming from, man? I don't. Listen, man, this is Yay Day. We're not talking about
Mike,
Eminem.
This is your fault. You started this. I told you not to start this.
Yeah.
Now Mike, I want you to understand we talk about him as much as we talk about anybody on here, and that is your fault.
Well, I'm looking forward to a new Eminem album. We'll review that and give it a great listen and, give it a fair shake like we do everything else, man.
Nobody believes you when you say that, Mike.
I'm going to listen to it, man. I mean,
no, you're going to listen. We also know what you're going to say, Mike. We know what you're going to say.
Well, I pretty much know what I'm about to hear.
And this is why somebody every week. And you want to know what, Terminator? I'm going to lean more towards on Mike's side as far as the classic album stuff. He doesn't have any real, certified classic albums, but I still think he's a great MC and tactician on the microphone, and I've consistently said he's a great MC and tactician on the microphone.
I'm glad that N.O.R.E didn't bring up Eminem and those, little, I guess, either or questions that he was asking. I was kind of confused with, the fact that he had, Mobb Deep and M.O.P. I didn't even think that was a conversation.
I didn't either, but,
whatever. I guess it was a New York thing. And then, the Outkast and UGK thing, I think that, it's that East Coast bias thing, right? I think people like to pair up Southern folks because I feel like they can't fathom actually comparing a Southern act to an East Coast act.
Is the actual comparison.
That's the real comparison, but I think East Coast heads' minds just can't fathom that somebody from the South actually is on Tribe's level. And, we were talking about this when we were talking about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They're going to have to, I think Wu-Tang's going to get in there next, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Outkast is eventually going to get in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But with that being said, Tribe's going to have to get in because East Coast heads is not going to take the fact that Cass is in there and Tribe's not. They're going to lose their mind. They're going to try to burn the building down or something.
Fascinating proposition if that were to happen.
I think both deserve it, obviously. And I think that you and I need to do that mock versus with Tribe and Cass again. Listen, I'm a huge Tribe fan. And I think Tribe could possibly beat Outkast in a versus. And I think that because I think Tribe's singles are better than Cass, but Cass's best records are their album records. Now, with that being said, though, Outkast is just a massive group, and I think that they're going to get that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame acknowledgement just off the mystique of Andre 3000 and that impact alone. And I think Tribe deserves to be in there. But I don't know if the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is going to, acknowledge that without some help. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, they got a lot they need to untangle and work out, but we're going to see how it goes.
Yeah, people are mortified by the fact that, they're not. Don says Outkast is way better than Tribe. Perry says if Cass gets in there before Tribe, I won't be mad. And I'm from New York. All right, cool. Well, we'll hold you to that. All right, man. Well, I'm about to meet up with you
in your borough share those same sentiments, my man.
Right. All right, man. Well, let's go check out this parade, brother. Go Braves.